back to Football Bloody Hell. And welcome to this new season for Football Bloody Hell, shall we say. So, yeah, same intro, new season. As you'll see as well, we've got a few little graphics if you're watching on YouTube or whatever, or on Spotify. We're all boxed in. It's claustrophobic in here. But, yeah, so this is season 2. We've decided to start with a new bit of structure. Welcome back to any one of our previous listeners who's listened to the last 20-odd episodes. And welcome to anyone new. And if you want to get to know us a bit more, I recommend going to listen to episode 1 of season 1. We just explain what we're doing, who we are, and all that sort of stuff. But I'm here with Gary, as always. And how are you, mate?
I'm good. I'm really good, mate. Ready for season 2. Like a almost winter break, wasn't it? So, kicking off again with season 2, but all good. How are you?
Yeah, decent, mate. Decent. Yeah, we've had a bit of a busy transfer window, you could say, in January.
Look at the production value, though.
We're going to try and hit the rest of the season running and, see where we can go from it. We're going to try and up our game in the next season.
The end of season push.
End of season push, yeah. Or second season.
That's what it's all about now.
And we're not going to have second season syndrome. None of that shit.
Nah.
No, that ain't going to happen.
Nah, none of that. To be fair, let's be honest, what's really going to happen is it's going to be good for a few episodes, and then it's going to tail off again disastrously. Pretty much like every team we support's football season ever.
No, of course it isn't. No, that's not going to happen, mate. It's not going to happen. Determined. No, we're determined to get this right, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We'll start. Look how we've started now. Look at the production value you pulled out the bag. Like, this is professional stuff now. This isn't a hobby. This is professional quality stuff.
It is.
Because I can't think of a better word than stuff.
Yeah, we need. If any listeners got a spare thesaurus, just send it our way. That'd be great.
Yeah. No, because I can't type with my new setup because I've got my new rig.
Got no hands.
I've got no hands, but the new rig that I've got set up, which is a ASOS box and a fresh light here, which is just my other monitor on a white screen. But this is the thing people don't appreciate, the effort and stuff that goes into it, Matt, when you start the podcast.
Yeah, I know. It's wild,
never mind. But you alluded to it, a bit of a newer structure, because we realised that I talk a lot and we kind of lose a lot of structure. And I think to keep things fluid, I think is the footballing term, fluid.
Yeah, bit of fluidity in there, nice flow to everything. And and keep it sort of engaging for people as well. So we got a little bit of a structure where each week we'll hit like a main topic, but there's going to be a few things that you'll be listening to that's going to be quite similar every week as well, when there's certain things in there. So yeah,
which is
bit of
interesting.
Interesting
news, random stuff
from around the world.
But in true fashion,
England.
Mainly England. Yeah, I was going to say around the world, but it'll be England from me, and then Christ knows where you'll come from, because you always got something from somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Like just like your shirts come from everywhere. Your football knowledge is everywhere, and if it's not you creating countries and Football Manager and telling us about that, it's somewhere in the crack arse of nowhere in the back alley of the UK where a team's been taken over by a property developer. But to kick us off from episode 1 of season 2, the latest news that I want to talk about is a certain Football Manager being sacked.
Yeah, it's a bit close to home, this one, isn't it?
It is a little bit, but so Michael Beale lasted 12 games in charge of Sunderland, which was probably 11 too many. I'm giving them 1 game, but a bizarre appointment. But like, I don't want to dive too much into the reasons behind it, because I'll talk about that, because from the start of the pod we're going to talk about like the interesting stuff, and then the next part will be me and Matt reviewing from our fan perspective of Sunderland and Sheffield Wednesday, because Matt's a Sheffield Wednesday fan. Any new listeners, how we think the seasons have gone so far. So I'm not going to dive into that part so much, but the weirdest thing that's come out of Michael Beale being sacked today is during his reign, there was an account which has come to light now, which was tweeting and retweeting weird stuff like so if there was any pro Michael Beale literature or anything where it was bad mouthing Sunderland as a club or as a fan base for wanting Mick Beale out, this one account was retweeting them and posting stuff. So at the weekend, what happened was, so just put that to one side for a second. At the weekend, it was the straw that must have brought the camel's back, because he substituted our right back Trey Hume, and as he's walking off the pitch and he's coming up the touchline, Michael Beale stood, so you can see like he's coming up on his left hand shoulder. Hume goes to shake his hand, and Beale just completely blanks him. Everybody sees it. You see it on like the TV highlights or whatever. And then after the game, he was asked about it, and he said, "No, I didn't see him. I apologise, and I'll apologise to him." And then went to his Instagram, put a picture of Trey Hume up, and then commented on it saying, "Look, he's a great player. He's been a great servant to the club. Blah 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 blah. Apologise to Trey Hume, and blah 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 blah." Which is bizarre, because it was blatantly obvious that he'd ignored him, so he was lying. He was just apologising because he got caught out. But then this account then retweeted or tweeted a wide angle of the incident, which basically corroborated the story that he had ignored him, but they tweeted it to say like, "Oh, you can see from this angle, on the wide angle, that Beale was actually talking to Barr, which was another Sunderland player, and didn't actually see him." So then somebody's looked into this account, and the account is called player_ID or ID_player. I can't remember exactly which.
Right.
Sorry, it's called @player_ID, and a guy random in 2017 tweeted out saying, "Give Michael Beale's new business a Player ID follow and check out the website. You'll not regret it." And looked into it and basically realised that this Sunderland account, this Player ID account, which released the footage from the Trey Hume incident, and then also retweeted a tweet from a Coventry fan, which states as follows: "If SAFC sack Beale, who in their right mind would want that job, owners that won't back a manager in the transfer market, and a toxic fan base who will boo the F out of him and will want him gone as soon as they lose 2 games, the self-entitlement is onto another level." And that Player ID account reposted it, and then somebody's went back and realised it's actually Michael Beale's company.
Oh, wow.
How weird is that?
That's fucked up, isn't it? That is just
It's
massively
so bizarre.
fucked up. Massively fucked up.
So yeah, that's a bit of news, and it's news because obviously he's been sacked over the weekend, and then he's Sunderland police, Sunderland Twitter police, sorry, have investigated and realised he's been retweeting.
So, bit of other news from my end. There's a league starting this week. First game of the season. The MLS. The MLS is starting as we're recording this tomorrow. Do you watch any of the MLS, Gary? Have you seen the drop of all the new kits? So if anyone doesn't know, Adidas sponsor and make every kit for the MLS. And they were dropped last week, I want to say, all of them. I don't know if you've seen them. Do you have any thoughts on those? Before the actual
I mean,
football?
it's a plug for their Instagram page, but the classic football shirts, when you sent me the link through, I've had a look through it, and I've gotten a bit of affiliation to Toronto, so I'm a little bit biased when I say this, but that's definitely one of my favourites. But it must be an away kit because it's navy.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
But that's really nice. And then I think it was Minnesota, the space one.
Yeah, Minnesota's is a nice one as well. I think you said you messaged me and said that Austin, you liked Austin's shirt as well. I think that was there.
I'm a big fan of like a block coloured sleeve and a different colour torso, like solid colours. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
that's fair.
I respond to it. Matt.
You just respond to block colours.
Respond to block colours. Yeah.
So in terms of matches, if you want to watch them, it's on Apple TV. We're plugging that as well. But first games tomorrow. You've got a couple of games. So Inter Miami are kicking it all off against Real Salt Lake. You've got then Columbus versus Atlanta, and then LAFC versus Seattle, and then it sort of flies in the weekend. There's games every day, all the time. So yeah, it all kicks off with that Miami at Real Salt Lake game.
Is there any bookies favourites for the
so I was
MLS this season?
Touch on that, and like I think the favourites. I think most people's favourites, if you don't really know MLS, are going to be Inter Miami because they got Messi and Suarez up front. So, but realistically, how many games are they going to play? Are they going to keep interested in this sort of stuff?
Suarez is. I don't know. Like it's almost like when they've signed Messi, they've give him reassurances that they'll sign his mates because they've signed Busquets, who's obviously still good. Like he's still good in that league. But then you've got Alba, and then Suarez, and there was another signing. I can't remember.
Busquets, yeah.
Busquets was it? Must have been that one. But I mean, Suarez, he's been finished for a long time. He cannot run, but
yeah, I mean,
he might be okay over there.
I don't know. The standard's getting ridiculously good. If anyone watches it now, it's getting like very good. The standard in there, because essentially what happens in the MLS is a lot of so because of the work permit things in Europe, a lot of the best young Brazilian, Argentinian, Uruguayan, Colombian, Mexican, those sort of players gravitate towards the MLS because there's more money in it. It's a wider audience. It's easier for them to get picked up to go to a European team. So rather than staying in the Brazilian league, the Argentinian league, which isn't really that good, the standard and the pitch and the facilities, they go to the MLS and embed there. So there's a lot of really young, talented South American players in the MLS now, which is like heightening that quality in there. And obviously you've got
Columbus.
Oh yeah, go for it.
No, I was going to say, like, Columbus have always been there or thereabouts, haven't they? Like, I think they finished maybe second or third. I can't remember. I can't remember who won it actually last year.
They won the MLS Cup last year. Cincinnati won the league phase. It's weird how it works, but yeah. Cincinnati arguably are the favourites to win the league phase or the Supporters' Shield, as they say it again, because it's quite a grueling thing to win that. Whereas the MLS Cup is essentially just a knockout competition at the end of the season. For the top 16 odd teams, but yeah, they signed Inter Miami signed Suarez from Gremio, so he was playing in Brazil last year. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. I like it. There's some interesting young players in there, and the standards are getting a lot better, and especially with the World Cup coming up in the next couple of years in the US as well. I think they're trying to push it like massively.
I think I'd rather watch the MLS than the Saudi Pro League, if that's if that's where we're going.
No, I wouldn't even compare them, to be honest, mate. Like, they're not even comparable. Like the MLS is so far ahead, it's ridiculous. So in terms of the MLS, it's they've got ridiculous, like their numbers in terms of like supporters in grounds and things is like nearly championship levels.
Yeah.
The actual supporter and fan culture. If you watch any games, if anyone's getting into the MLS, watch a Austin home game, a St. Louis City home game, a Nashville home game, or any of those sort of newer teams. So they've got, like, as they call it, soccer-specific stadiums now. And it just flares. It's a mix between English-style stadiums, but with South American support. So it is nuts. It is genuinely nuts. When someone scores, all the floodlights flash on and off, and there's flares going off, and people go wild. It's genuinely a really cool thing to watch. So, like, yeah, if you watch it, try and watch one of those teams. If anyone's got any suggestions, just let me know. Let us know on our Twitter, because I watch the MLS quite a lot. I've been watching it for the last couple of years. So, yeah.
Mm. I think who's some of the teams that are closest to the like Mexico, like southern, like South America,
So you got
like what?
yeah, so you got a couple of teams in like Texas and stuff. You got Austin and you've got Houston Dynamo. Then you've got the Florida teams. You got Miami, obviously, and they've got quite a big South American sort of following. And
Mm,
then you've got Orlando City as well, and then you've got teams more like San Jose, like over in California and things like that. So there's quite a few down there. But then yeah, it's wild the support. Like if you get to watch any of those games, like I said, Nashville have got good atmospheres. Austin have got good atmosphere. St. Louis City, which were new last year, they've got really good atmosphere. FC
mm.
Cincinnati versus Columbus Crew is a big one. That they that game is just wild every time. But yeah, it's really good. So like it's worth checking it out. There's some really decent players in there as well. So it's always worth having a look. But yeah, I think one of the key
I feel
players to
like
watch out for that you might see in the Premier League or Championship in the next couple of years is Facundo Torres, who plays for Orlando City. I think he will make a move over to this way very soon. He was linked with like Arsenal, I think, last. So yeah,
that's a fair goal. Like
yeah,
calling it out now.
yeah. I think he's fantastic.
After that, have you got any other news for us?
Yeah, one more bit of news, and this time we're flying over to the Indian Football League. I know, I know it's a bit wild, mate, but yeah, we're going to the Indian Football League, more precisely the Delhi Football League. So not even the Indian Premier League, but the Delhi Football League. So it was a match
Okay.
between Arbab FC and Rangers FC that took place. I think it was this week. And Arbab FC have been accused. I believe it's Arbab FC. Yeah, they've been accused of match fixing and being kicked out of the football league. Now, if you type this in, if anyone wants to see these two, basically what they did is score the most blatant two own goals you've ever seen in your entire life to lose a game. They've literally the team just pass it round at the back. And then in the first one, he just loops it over the goalkeeper. Second one, he takes a touch and wellies it into the top left-hand corner. It's an absolute screamer. But like, it's like so yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. There's clear like match fixing going on. They're going to be banned from their league. And if anyone wants to check out the goals, just go onto Twitter. Just type in Arbab FC own goals. And it's all on there. You can watch them. They're fucking wild. Like, it's worth a watch. The standard is horrendous, but yeah, they're the team in yellow that are scoring the own goals if you're watching it, and they just pass it round to the back and then just welly it in. But I mean, it's wild
The
how
thing is,
blatant they're doing it. It's how blatant it is and obvious. Like, do they really think they're going to get away with it? And I mean, I think there's been a lot of this in the past, especially like with India. There's been a lot in the cricket and things like that, hasn't there? So now it's like creeping into like football. I don't know how much money has been bet on these leagues because it's not the Indian Super League. It's like a regional Premier League thing. But like, still, like that. I just think it's wild that like the integrity of that sport of football in India is just taking a massive hit, basically.
the thing you've said though is accused, and if you look at the goals,
I know.
you're not really. You can't accuse it.
I know.
You're outright calling it out.
I mean, yeah, you watch the goals. They've been accused, but like, if you watch the goals, it's blatant, isn't it? It's blatant. But yeah,
It's like the only thing I liken it to is if there's some chocolate left in the fridge, and it's not mine. It's my wife's and my daughter's. I go in, I eat it. They know they haven't ate it, and they ask me, and they go, "Who's ate that?" And I'm like, "Don't know,
don't know.
don't know, don't know." Just
Gary,
just gone,
you were
just
caught on
gone.
camera eating the chocolate. Yeah, I don't know who it was. Yes.
Nah, that ain't me. That's not me.
Yeah,
It's a poltergeist. It's not me.
I mean, it's it's wild stuff, and I imagine the guys that are involved or the team's going to be banned or kicked out or whatever ever's going to happen there. And then I imagine the players are going to get lifetime bans as well. But yeah, it's not a great thing for Indian football in general. But yeah, that was my other bit of news.
Good to watch. It's good.
It's a good watch. Yeah.
I'm all for it, mate. I'm all for it. So that's your first weird and wonderful news segment. So Matt will go for a quick short break, and when we come back, we'll review and preview our seasons thus far.
Thus far, yeah, indeed. So we'll quickly go for a quick short break. And we're back. Welcome back, Gary. How was your quick short break?
It's good. It was refreshing. I had a drink.
Yeah,
it was very nice.
Did you? Yeah, I haven't got a drink on me actually. I should really grab one from somewhere, but oh well, not the end of the world.
Well, you might need one after your season. You might need one after your season review. We can grab it in the next refreshment break.
Disgusting behaviour, yeah. Yeah, so now we're going to touch, so if you're new to the pod or whatever, and sort of a new structure, this segment now is going to be our main sort of topic. So every week we're going to have a main topic we discuss. We thought, first one, we're going to talk about our team's seasons, how they're going, and how we think they're going. I'll let Gary go first, because mine's going to be quite short. So yeah.
We've had I mean, to be fair, when you think, before I go into it fully, we're not that far apart really in terms of millstones, managerial replacements and weird parody accounts on Twitter and outbursts and stuff from owners / hidden corporate accounts from your managers. But it's been I feel like it's been a long season. We're just halfway through really.
Yeah,
it's just bizarre, but 33
games, 46, so 13 left. So 2/3.
Or we're into the final third, really.
Yeah.
We're into the final third, but I just feel like there's so much happened. If we just quickly touch on the championship season, as a whole, looking at it, there's 4 teams who are competing for the top 2.
Yeah.
And there was 3 teams relegated who basically look like they're going to bounce back up in Leeds, Southampton, and Leicester. You've got a shot, a outside shot of Ipswich bursting into it, and then your mainstays like West Brom and co, Coventry. But it realistically, Sunderland. So in best case scenario for Sunderland, I was thinking we might have a run at the playoffs. That would be it. And currently, despite sacking 2 managers from the start of the season to as we're recording this, we just recently sacked Michael Beale. We're only 4 points off. We're sitting 10th in the league. We're only 4 points off it, but there's only really, that looks like, 1 position up for grabs in the playoffs now. And like I say, I think the pie in the sky would have been another playoffs run, sneak into the playoffs again. But the reality was just finishing around the playoffs, maybe 9th, 10th. Wouldn't be happy, but it's not a bad season. You know what I mean? We could have done better, but so it's really hard to judge, because last season we really overperformed by sneaking into the playoffs, and in reality, it's not really bad to get promoted because of the revenues and stuff it brings, but we wouldn't have been ready. We would have been, if you look at the way Burnley and Sheffield United, who went up automatically, have been performing, we were beaten by both of them, and I would have worried for us going into the Prem. But this season's just weird because we were playing decent football, kind of hit a bit of a rocky patch with Mowbray, sacked him, and then the season seems to have just totally derailed at the appointment of Michael Beale, because I don't know how that man got the job. I do. We tried to get Will Still, couldn't afford him, and then we've scrambled trying to get somebody else in and landed on him, and he just wasn't a good fit. And I feel like all of the good stuff that was built on the back of Alex Neil's promotion, Tony Mowbray's like overachievements, and I'll say it's an overachievement. But if you disagree with us, tweet us, let us know what you think. But I just feel like we massively overachieved in the first season, so there was more expectation, and then it run its course with Mowbray, and we've just completely pulled the soul out of the team at the minute, because I just feel like we've wasted 12 games. We've just wasted 12 games under him.
You have to think though, you are only 4 points. Well, let's say it's 5 points, because looking at the results that are coming in tonight, Hull are beating Southampton 2-0 away from home, and Ipswich are beating Rotherham. So Ipswich are going to go joint third, and Hull
both of those results are bad.
to fifth. So West Brom are sixth, so 5 points behind. But you got a positive goal difference there, like +8.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, it's the same as Norwich, Hull now. Preston are obviously a bit a -8 goal difference, which is a bit bad. But I mean, realistically, there's always that one team that comes out of nowhere. Maybe a change in manager gives you a spark of form, and you just come out of nowhere and just sneak into that last place. You don't know.
Maybe, I think in reality the board weren't expecting, and I'm not going to say they don't want to get promoted, but like, because they do, and there's a lot of talk around Christian speaking when I was sporting director, and the ownership, because of stuff that's happened off the pitch. Because in this season, I'm just gonna, it was out on Twitter, but this season we've done something remarkable in the fact that we've redecorated our stadium in our biggest rivals' colours. That's point one. We sacked a fan favourite and hired a random person who then blamed him being from the south why the Sunderland fans didn't accept him.
To be honest, mate, this is sounding very similar to our team. Yeah, I can see.
But I think in reality, if you look at the teams that are in this league, this is probably one of the most competitive championship seasons there's ever been. Like, it has to be, because the run that Southampton's had to go on to keep them in contention. Leeds are a bit patchy in form, but they're performing really well at the minute, so they're going to have a push. Ipswich had a rocket lit up them at the start of the season, but they've hit a bit of a patch where they've dropped form a little bit. But obviously they're winning tonight. And then Leicester have just won the league. Like, it's like Burnley last season. They're just, I know they lost to Borough at the weekend 2-0, but it's such a competitive season that I feel like it was a free hit to try and get into the playoffs again this season. And the decision to sack Mowbray and appoint a manager of it being Mick Beale has totally derailed us on the momentum that we had, and it's lost. The fans have obviously lost a bit of trust in the ownership, and we've given it to the assistant manager. Well, he's not an assistant manager. He's one of the coaching staff called Michael Dodds, who we really rate. He took temporary charge until we appointed Michael Beale. We played Leeds, and it's gonna escape us who the other game was. I'm really forgetful, but we beat Leeds at home, which is a massive result. And then I can't remember who. And then he won another game. So in the 2 games he was in charge, he won both. And then it went to Michael Beale, and then we got beat 3-0 off Coventry as soon as he took charge. And it's just been downhill trajectory. The football's been poor. Like, we've been laboured. It's been slow. There's no kind of like, and I always take this with a pinch of salt when people say like, oh, there's no kind of pattern of play or anything like that, because like, if we don't know what they're trying to do, then the opposition might not know what we're trying to do, which is like funny. But like, there was no press. We just totally stripped us back, and we were a bit more defensive, but we couldn't score goals. And our biggest thing is that we haven't had an out-and-out striker now since before Ross Stewart. Because as soon as he got injured, we haven't had a striker, and we managed to have a lot of players with quality who could score goals, and Patrick Roberts, Ahmad, Pritchard, Clark. But we've been heavily relying on Jack Clark, which is fine because he's our player. If you want to be over reliant on somebody and he's your player, then go for it. But I just feel like we've now sacked Michael Beale and put Michael Dodds back in charge till the end of the season, and the managerial appointment will probably come in the summer because we won't have any intention of employing a manager from now until the end of the season. He's got the job until the end of the season, so he's previously in League One took charge, lost 2 games and was hated, but then he's had a really big redemption arc, won 2 games in the Championship. So when Michael Beale was actually appointed, everyone was just saying, well, why didn't we just give it to Michael Dodds till the end of the season? What's the point in getting Michael Beale? So I just feel like it's a write-off season just because I feel like the board's just accepted that we're not going up. We're just going to finish as high as we can, go again in the summer. And I feel like what will happen is that we're probably going to go back in for Will Still, pay the fee because we're going to sell Jack Clark for about 20-25 million. And some of that money will go to getting Will Still, and the rest will be reinvested in the squad. And then I feel like the fan base will expect playoffs next season. So I'm not sat here completely disappointed. I'm just a bit like underwhelmed because of how badly we've got it in.
I mean,
replacing Tony Mowbray.
After the overachievement of last year, I think you'd be quite happy with 10th in the Championship this year, wouldn't you? Where you are at
I wouldn't say happy. I'd be okay. I'd be like, all right, okay, could have done better. It's not good enough. We'll go again next season. If we finish below 10th, which I feel like is a real possibility now, I think it's a bad season. I think I'll be okay. It's an okay season if we finish 10th.
Oh, that's fair.
But anything below that will be, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, it's a really, like, you can probably tell by the way I'm talking about it. It's a bit like I'm all over it because one minute I'm like annoyed by it, next minute I'm okay with it, next minute I don't really care. But I would say that the past 12 games, has just been like I've been a complete apathy towards it. Like I just wasn't bothered. But when we were winning, it was like, well, it's another week where he's going to be manager. And when we lost, it was just toxic because it was like he's just a weird guy. He shouldn't have got the job. He shouldn't have been put in that position. So that's on Christian Speakman. But then he's made swift action and sacked a guy after 12 games. So fair play. Ruthless industry, isn't it?
Very ruthless.
So I'll hand the floor to you, mate, to go through Chef Wed. I know you said it was going to be short, but there's a lot of digest still.
Yeah, there's a lot of I mean, in terms of the season, it's been a bit. I think it was derailed on day one. So we got promoted. If anyone doesn't know, we got promoted. Darren Moore took us up from League One last year, and then he left by mutual consent. We know he's sacked now, but the official word was mutual consent. And then our chairman's just been spouting shit for most of the year. But then he brought in Xisco, who was a strange appointment, and he signed a lot of non-players who aren't been proven in England or even the Championship or at this level at all. He brought in a lot of freebies around that and loan signings who just didn't do anything. Then we had an aging team with a load of, like, I don't know, people there for a quick buck. I don't want to put it on all of them because some of them are actually all right. But, like, yeah, it stunk of that losing your identity thing, which we've talked about previously in a podcast, haven't we? Like, our team was just becoming a group of players who were getting paid, not really a Sheffield Wednesday team, if that made sense. So, and that's how the season started. We had our worst start to the season ever. So I mean, yeah, we didn't win a game until when was it? It was what, November, was it, or October?
January? No, I'm not joking.
We've won games now. Yeah, it was ridiculous. I think it was October, but yeah, worst start to the season ever. I mean, yeah, 29th of October was our first win, 2-0 win against Rotherham, who if we didn't beat Rotherham, I feel like you may as well just said, just put us in League One. We'll just sack off the rest of the games for the season at that point. Because after that game, we went on and lost 3 on the bounce straight afterwards as well. But that was
At what point did the
14th game of the season was our first win.
At what point did they sack Xisco?
They sacked Xisco. He was sacked on the 3rd of October. Oh, no, 4th of October. Sorry, so he was sacked at the beginning of October. So there was 4 games after he was sacked. He was sacked after the loss to West Brom.
And then obviously the appointment of Danny Role, and I suppose we both could probably do season reviews to this point, and it sounds like multiple seasons. It's like 2/3 have gone, so you can obviously review it from Darren to Xisco in one, and then how are you feeling now with Danny Role in charge? Like,
honest,
what's the thoughts?
With Danny Role in charge, I think it's his first senior job in management, isn't it? So he's been assistant before. He's been with national teams and things like this, but I think he's doing a decent job. And our under-21s, under-23s, or whatever you want to call them, they've been actually playing really well, and he started to call up some of those lads that actually deserve a chance in the first team, and some of them, like Bailey Cadamartri as well, has been doing fantastic since he's been called up. And you think, and I think that's his ethos. His ethos is to embed young local players, but also bring in some experience to try and get us up, and we've seen a positive turn in results. It's not perfect, because our squad it was never perfect anyway, but it's definitely improved. And the one thing you can see when we're improving, we're in games now. Apart from a couple of matches where we've been battered.
Yeah.
We're not, like before, under Xisco, we were not keeping the ball, we were not having shots, we were not creating anything. It was just a case of not doing anything for 90 minutes and hoping the other team doesn't score. And when they do score, we just don't do anything. Whereas, under Danny Role, it seems like we picked up a bit more momentum and we're actually playing quite well. And in some cases, we're actually outplaying teams, which wasn't happening previously. I think one of the things is, we beat Millwall at the weekend. I know they're in a bit of a slump, but that's
got a result against Birmingham.
You
got
away
a result against Birmingham.
2-0 is good. 2-0 win against Birmingham. We're beating the teams around us. We beat Hull 3-1, and we battered Hull 3-1 as well, which was quite impressive. And you know where they are; they're pushing into the playoffs as well. So those are massive turn in results. So I'm more positive in that way. But I think for our season, we're currently still second from bottom, but we're picking up points. So I think we're 4 points behind Millwall now, who we beat at the weekend, which isn't too bad. We've started scoring goals. Ashley Fletcher was sent off against Millwall, so he's out now, so we don't need to play him anymore.
That's probably a good thing. Yeah, it's a good thing.
Which is a good thing. And our next few games are Bristol City, Rotherham, Plymouth. So I want to see there is quite a few big games in the next couple of weeks where I hope us to pick a couple of points up and just close that gap on those ones above us. That Rotherham away is a big game. The Rotherham away.
Yeah. They look quite dead. They've only won 3. I mean, I'm saying this not to curse, yeah, but they've won. I'm looking at the table, and from Swansea, who are in 18th, down to you in 23rd. Although there's a point swing to Swansea because they're 7 points ahead. From 18th to you, Swansea have won 9 games this season. Stoke have won 9. Then Huddersfield has won 7. But then you, QPR, and Sheffield have all won more games than Huddersfield. You've all won 8. So it's it's funny. It's deceiving because you look at the table first thing, and you just look at points, but then you look at the amount of wins and the goal swing. It's so tight. The whole league is so tight, apart from first to second.
Yeah, I'm thinking if we get positive results in the next 3 games, even if that's 1 win and a draw and a loss maybe against Bristol City or whatever, then that's what 4 points. We're then level with Millwall if they keep their slump. So right back in amongst probably all the teams up to Plymouth, Birmingham, maybe. Like you're only 3 or 4 points off being mid-table, which is wild. Like so, a big couple of games and a swing could get us back right into it and push us into that. It's still going to be a battle to the end of the season, but I mean, we played Southampton, we played Leicester, we played all these like teams near the top.
It's more in and around you.
We have to play the teams that are floating around us, and we're beating them, and we're proven beating Millwall, beating Birmingham. If we beat Plymouth, we beat Rotherham. They're in around us. You can maybe write off the Bristol City game, but then like Bristol City are beatable, aren't they? I know they're mid-table, but they've started picking up points, haven't they? But like, realistically, you have to target games like Rotherham, like Plymouth, like any of those sort of games. You have to target and just try and get wins out of them, or points. Just points is fine.
Yeah,
and I do think some of the signings that have been made in the January transfer window have been decent. So we bought in the Canadian striker Ike Ugbo on loan, and he was at Cardiff on loan previously and hadn't scored in 14 appearances or something like this, or scored 2 goals in 14. He's now scored he scored 3 in his last 3 for us.
Yeah,
and he seems to be enjoying himself at Sheffield Wednesday. He seems to be quite clinical up front. He's scoring quite a lot of goals, and I think that was a good signing as well. It's sort of someone that's what we needed as well. We were missing a goal scorer.
Yeah, you need a striker like that. Yeah.
Someone like that who's scoring goals is actually quite good. So I'm optimistic, but yeah,
that's good.
You can't write off completely yet, and I think with the fact we're after our awful start to the season, being probably the worst Championship team in history. And not only having 1 win by the end of November, I think the way it's turned around to still be in touching distance with the rest of the teams, I think is incredible. The fact that we had literally on the board at the end of November, we had 7 points. We're now on 29 and within 4 points of safety. Like, you can't say that's a massive turnaround.
Yeah,
huge turnaround.
Well, it's like I say, in all areas. I'd say obviously Rotherham. You'd expect. I think we all predicted them to go down, and Liam Richards probably hasn't had the desired effect. But I think they're more preparing for League One again because they haven't really recruited that much, and he's signed Charlie Wyke in January, and I think they're pretty much ready for next season to go again. But it's so tough. Like, it is really tough. Like, I'm just looking at the teams in mid-table as well, and you've got the likes of in the Championship. That is, you've got. I'm going to exclude Coventry because they're 7th. I'd say playoffs. You've got Norwich, Preston, us, Watford, Bristol, and Borough. And on another season, they've been pretty much playoff contenders. Like Preston were a couple of seasons ago, Norwich were, Watford have pushed previously. It's just mad. And Borough obviously had a really good season and fell out in the playoffs last season. It's just such a tough league.
Well, Blackburn are down there this time, and they finished 7th last year. So you think like it is wild, like how it can just flip flop. Like you could have a team that for instance, Hull are doing really well this year. If they don't win the playoffs, they could be relegated next year. That is genuinely a possibility.
Well, I think it's interesting that you mentioned Hull. Sorry, because the amount they've spent, and there was a stat came out, and I'm really bad. I'm gonna have to get better at it. They need to get promoted this season because I think their wage revenue is like 125%. Of their revenue streams, 125% of that is player wages.
Yeah.
So they can't sustain that, and I don't know how they're getting away with that with FFP. But if they don't go up this season,
what they've done is they've done a classic. We did it a couple of seasons ago before we got relegated to League One.
Derby did it.
Derby did it.
Derby's
as well.
did the same.
So it's a gamble by the owners. You spend all this money to try and get into the Premier League, you get in the Premier League, the FFP is slightly less lenient in the Premier League. Is slightly more lenient in the Premier League than the Championship. You get all this cash, which is an influx of income, which also balances, and then that balances the books. So it's a gamble. Like essentially buying all these players, expect to get promoted, and you're good. Don't get promoted like we didn't. We lost in the playoff final and then the playoff semi-final. 2 seasons later, we're in League One, and we've had a 6-point deduction for FFP failure, like because all that money was spent to gamble to get up to the Premier League. Didn't happen, and then you drop down. Like that happened. It's happened to us. It's happened to Derby. Arguably, it's happening to sort of things like, you could say Reading, Wigan, QPR in some sense as well. Like they've had a lot of spend, and then they're down there and they're struggling now, trying not to get an FFP deduction, essentially by sacking off all their players and bringing in anyone. But like, yeah, it's a gamble from Hull. It's a gamble.
Massively.
And you want to know how much they're paying on those loan fees to get like Fabio Carvalho,
Zori,
things like that, and Zori.
Signed Giles for a fortune, Carvalho. Yeah, you're right.
They got Tyler Morton from Liverpool as well. Scott Twine's on loan. Like Liam Delap's in from Man City. Vinagre from Sporting in Portugal. So these are huge like clubs they're getting loans off of, and they've signed a lot of players as well. You wonder how much money they're actually spending. Like they realistically need to get promoted.
Yeah, I know they have got like money behind it, but
it's not the way it
you
works
can't
anymore,
like.
Is it?
Yeah. You can have all just like Newcastle, for example. Like you can have all the money in literally the world, but if you can't balance your bank balance, then you can't reinvest. So, but it's just interesting. We'll see how the season pans out. But I'm pretty much thinking that from a Sunderland's point of view, 10th's probably about right. Yeah. And I'll take it at this point now, given the backdrop of our season. And I was gonna say famously, like you famously, but you predicted and were hoping for a 4th off bottom finish, and I think that's probably, you'd snap my hands off if I could offer you it now.
Oh yeah, I'll take that. 21st, any day of the week, right now. 21st.
But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. We're both.
Though, if we do go down, I hope he doesn't sack Danny Roll. Danny Roll gets to rebuild the team with younger players, and how he likes it in League One, and we just smash League One and come back up better prepared for the Championship in 2 years. I would prefer that, but knowing our chairman, Danny Roll will get sacked if we got relegated. We'll lose all our best players. And you know how it works.
I mean, I'm trying to think now, and I think in hindsight, I didn't realise. I mean, I knew Sunderland were in a bad state when we got relegated from the Championship into League One. Didn't realise how bad it would be, and then how competitive that league can be, because it doesn't matter how good you are at football, teams can just shithouse a win off you. So I would prefer you to be able to rebuild in the Championship, but
Wickham comes to mind.
We'll see what happens, mate.
The Championship's so competitive, rebuilding in the Championship I don't think is a thing anymore. Like, if you start rebuilding, like you look at QPR, like they're trying to rebuild in the Championship and they're just getting battered. Like, do you know what I mean? Like Huddersfield are trying to rebuild in the Championship, they're struggling. Even arguably Swansea and Blackburn as well, but like, yeah, it's a struggle.
Blackburn are one to watch because I think they're in grave danger. But I suppose but we'll see. But we'll take another quick short break, mate, and when we come back from the break, we'll do a bit of a preview into the games at the weekend.
Yeah, sounds good. And we're back. Welcome back. Nice quick short break for everyone there. So, yeah, we're going on to one of our regular segments that we're going to throw in, if you're new and everything. So, yeah, we're going to do a little preview of games that are coming up this weekend. Any that might be towards the end of the week or whatever. what our thoughts will be. Maybe throw in a few predictions, not necessarily scores, but who we think will win. Some key matches that might be coming up as well, and just get our thoughts. So, is there any that you want to sort of touch on straight off the back of it, Gary?
Um, it's well. Let's be honest, right? I'm I'm domestic, right? I'm the domestic side of the podcast. Your rest of world, and well, basically anything outside of England, basically.
Yeah,
So I'll take care of this side, then you can take care of the rest for the further reach listeners that we've got.
fair enough, mate.
But just in general, like I suppose it like because I'm so invested in the championship now. There's some I say there's some big games. It's just big games in terms of both ends of the table. So you've got Hull playing West Brom. It's the early kickoff, excuse me. Yeah. So Hull's in good form, West Brom's in good form. And I just think again, it's one of those big championship games because they've got playoff hopes and West Brom seem to be like flying again, and they're coming off the back of the new ownership announcement. And I think he was at the game where during the week or maybe at the weekend. Um, so that's like kind of being pushed through now. So they're kind of flying high and buoyant about their situation. Which, to be fair, West Brom's a team I quite like. I like their stadium. It's like quite traditional. I like the kits. They've had some good players come
Blue and white
through. They've
stripes.
always been quite a they've
Agree with
always
that.
been a footballing team. So, and but I mean, Jonathan Greeneman, that's the one. Jesus, but I think with them two, that should be a good game. But then equally, at the this one might be a one for you to be of interest. Is QPR playing Rotherham? So I know you've got them, as you were saying just before we went for a break, that you've got them coming around the corner. But that's a massive game. You've got to be hoping for a draw there.
Yeah,
But I'd say,
I mean, realistically, I mean, I'm just having a look at the table now. Rotherham on 19 points. I would take a Rotherham win, maybe,
that's true.
there. They'll go on to 20, 22, but it keeps QPR in touching distance. Rotherham is still 22 points. They got a game in hand, but they're still not going to catch us. If we can get something at Bristol City, we're going to move arguably level with QPR then. So like, and then we've got to play Rotherham, and that could even push us out of the relegation places. So yeah, I mean a draw wouldn't be the end of the world either though.
Yeah, I mean,
They have drawn their last
yeah,
few games. QPR actually got a bit of form going on, but like yeah, they have drawn
yeah,
their
they're
last few games.
under the new gaffer, isn't it? But they're like the two games that I'd really stand out because I mean, obviously, I'll be keeping a keen eye on Sunderland because we've got Swansea, and hopefully we can get a win from that as well. But outside of that, I think like League One's starting to get a bit tasty as well now because you've got the teams in the top six. I'm just pulling it up now so I know which order they're in. So you've got Portsmouth, who are pretty much like the Leicester, they're flying.
Yeah.
They're 6 points ahead of Derby. It's nice to see Derby in the automatics as well. But then you've got Derby on 66, Bolton with a game in hand, and they're on 64. Barnsley, Oxford, and Peterborough. Stevenage, after a really, really good start this season, they've just slipped out of the playoffs. But then you've got Blackpool, and for all they're not in great form. They did beat Peterborough at the weekend, and they've got Bolton, so I think that'd be a good game. So it's Bolton. Is it Blackpool at Bolton?
Yeah,
Sorry, it's
Blackpool are
Blackpool at home.
yeah playing Bolton, and then the other one was Barnsley Derby. That I would have thought of in that one.
Yeah. So there's well, I say top six, but like of the teams that you'd expect to finish in the top six, there's four teams playing each other, so that should be good as well. And then that they're the ones I'd really see standing out to me. The only other thing I would probably point out is Reading. Reading have had a bit of a resurgence. They're not turning over teams, but I think of the last 6 games, they've scored a goal in each, a single goal. So they've either drew 1-1 or won 1-0. And it just seems to be enough. And I think for them just to stay up this season would be incredible considering where they were.
Yeah, I mean they're 18th now, so they're 3 points clear of Cheltenham. They've not lost in their last 4. They're looking I mean, considering how dross a lot of those teams are down the bottom there, they're being an informed side at this stage in the season, going into that final third, those last 13 odd games. That's actually quite good. Cheltenham do have 2 games in hand though. Port Vale have 3 games in hand. Carlisle are all but gone.
Darren Moore's there now.
Yeah, Darren
Yeah,
Moore
Carlisle are
confirmed.
finished. 5-year
Yeah.
deal. The only other thing is you've got Charlton, who have obviously been in free fall, and I've been watching Charlton a little bit just because one of our former ownership, one of the former teams. I mean, obviously you've got affiliations to Charlton, but the new ownership there, part of that is Charlie Methven, who was at Sunderland, and he was a total. I mean, he got found out in the Netflix series, and he's said a lot of untoward things about Sunderland and the region since he's left. He's very much a PR man, and he's taken over there, and then it's just gone terribly, terribly wrong. Which Sunderland fans did warn Charlton not to get excited by him because it'd just be stripping assets left, right, and centre. But then weirdly appointed Nathan Jones, which I think was a bit of a coup. I know he had a really rough time at Southampton, but I still rate him. I think
you look at some. I just want to touch on some of Charlton's players. Like, I'm surprised where they are because, like, you look at they got Alfie May up front, arguably one of the top goal scorers in the league for Cheltenham last year. He scored 16
he was
this
amazing.
season. Like, he's actually still firing, even though they're not doing very well. They've got
Ladapo, is it Labrador or Ladapo from Rotherham?
Yeah,
he's been at Rotherham.
They got Tyreek Backinson on loan from us. They've even got Michael Hector at the back. He's a decent centre back for League One. They've got arguably one of the best goalkeepers in the Championship last year, Harry Isted, as well, even though he's not playing. But arguably he was one of the best goalkeepers in the Championship, in the League One last year at Barnsley. And you think, like, their side should not be where it is, in my opinion. They're significantly underperforming. And then, like you said, Nathan Jones in charge as well.
I mean, he's only, in fairness, he has only taken over maybe the past 3 games. Yeah. It will take some time, but they got 3-3 with Bolton.
That's what I was going to say.
I think, and I think he will turn the ship around, and I hope they do, because, like, again, Charlton's another team where they've just been so starved of happiness.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of have sympathy for them, and that's coming from somebody who's lost in the playoff final twice to them. So not really have too much of a soft spot, but, like, at the same time, I just feel like I can sympathise with teams who are going through something that we've got shared trauma, bonded in trauma. So I hope they do turn it around, but I'm conflicted because I just don't like Charlie Methven.
Yeah, and I think realistically, if you look, the League One is very... I mean, it's very close again. Very much like the Championship. It's really close between those teams in the middle. There's not much in it. A win will put them, like, two positive results, and they're, 14th or something like this. So you have to think, like, it's not...
But avoiding
relegation.
I was going to say, but avoiding relegation shouldn't be on Charlton's mind. Like,
no,
that should be nowhere near it. But they're the games that I was, like, kind of previewing and wanted to shout out some teams. But have you got any that you wanted to call out?
Yeah, there was a couple that I was going to sort of touch on, like, maybe further afield, shall we say?
What a surprise!
Well, you've touched on all the other ones.
I know. I made sure.
To be fair, like, one I wanted to say, Bayern Munich versus Leipzig. It's a huge game for Bayern Munich, that one. Considering, like, they're faltering in a little bit of form. Leverkusen are sort of running away with the league at this point. They beat them 3-0 the other week. Bayern really need to sort of get a positive result against Leipzig. Leipzig, on the other hand, they are, 5th. They've lost their last 2 games they've won in the 1-2 out of their last 3 after losing 2. So Bayern have lost their last 2. Leipzig aren't a pushover. You think like Bayern, if Bayern wanted a positive result, they would want to play someone like Darmstadt, who are like bottom of the league,
Yeah,
absolute dog shit, beat them 8-0. Get back to it. We could start chasing down Leverkusen, but having Leipzig off the back of two bad results or two
yeah,
losses,
tough
even,
going.
you think, yeah, it's not, it's not ideal, is it? But yeah, if they do lose to Leipzig, realistically, Stuttgart could win this weekend. They're playing Cologne, and they could be 1 point behind Bayern Munich. And that tells you how wild that is. But yeah,
It is. I think with Bayern, I don't know. That obviously they got rid of what was their coach's name before? His name's escaped us.
oh,
Before Tuchel, he's at the German national team now, isn't he? I forgot his name. Look at us, football and podcast. What's his name? What's his name? But they got rid of him, and obviously because he was a bit outspoken, they've got Tuchel, and Tuchel's basically signed players from the Premier League in Harry Kane and Eric Dyer to make Harry Kane feel happier. He's got the best squad in the league without doubt. Like he's got De Ligt on the bench. He's playing Eric Dyer in front of. That's bizarre, but then he's got obviously the best squad in the league, hands down. But
I mean,
for some reason,
yes,
I mean, obviously Leverkusen have been phenomenal, but I don't know if I rate Tuchel. Like I just.
Well, there's already talk
Thomas
of
Tuchel.
Tuchel saying he just wants to leave already, and he's down in tools. But yeah, he's had enough. Like he can't be asked. So he's just, and there's a lot of pressure on Bayern Munich this weekend. I think if they get a negative result against Leipzig, could you see him being sacked potentially? Because
Maybe.
Leverkusen are playing Mainz on Friday night. If Leverkusen beat Mainz, they go 11 points ahead. If then Bayern lose or draw even with Leipzig, let's say, to Leipzig, which is possible, like that is a possible result to happen. It's not like they're playing someone shit.
Yeah.
If they lose to Leipzig, then is Tuchel's job up for... I mean, you have to remember Bayern Munich have just won the title. They've trounced it. They've won it every fucking year, like for the last 8 is it? Like you have to think, like, if you're faltering and there's another team running away with the league, you have to at least put a title challenge in there. If they lose to Leipzig, Stuttgart beat Cologne, who are near the bottom. They're 1 point. They're in a second place race then, and Leverkusen are just running away with it. If they go 11 points ahead on Friday, as well, is Tuchel going to be sacked? But Nagelsmann is the name of the manager.
Nagelsmann, that's it. I do think there's an element where he probably might get sacked, but the only question I was going to come back to you with is now the announcement of Klopp being made. I mean, it was made well before this being recorded, weeks and weeks ago now, but with him moving aside and opening an opportunity at Liverpool for Xavi Alonso, are Bayern now thinking, hang on a minute, we could get rid of Tuchel and kind of make a play for Xavi Alonso now. I don't think Xavi Alonso would leave Leverkusen now. I think it probably is more favoured towards Liverpool. But
I think Xabi Alonso want to see out a job. I don't think if they sacked Tuchel now and then approach Xabi Alonso, why would he leave the team that's currently top of the league with 0 losses to the team that's second and faltering a little bit? Yeah, by all means, maybe at the end of the season. But surely he thinks, no, I've got a job to do with Leverkusen.
I just think that's probably on the back of Bayern's mind. I definitely think Tuchel goes at the end of the season.
Oh yeah, he will. I think he'll walk.
He's gone.
If he sees it to the end of the season, he'll walk. I don't think he'll sack him. I think he'll say he's already sounds like he's down in tools anyway. So, like, I think he sort of did this when he was at Chelsea a little bit. Like, he sort of got to the point where he was like fed up with the board.
He always seems to,
fed
he
up
always
with,
seems to
like,
fall out with ownership.
falls out with everyone, and then just sort of goes, "Oh fuck it, I'll just play the under-21s and like I'll
Yeah.
play Eric Dyer in as goalkeeper or something, and like no one cares." Like,
But yeah,
but
I do think Tuchel's up for getting the sack if they do get beat off Leipzig. But I think the only thing that might be in the back of Bayern's mind is that Liverpool's probably approach or will approach, if they haven't already, Xabi Alonso. So if he does get beat, is it worth sacking him and appointing the caretaker? Or do you just keep him till the end of the season? They'll probably just keep him to the end of the season. Depends how bad it gets.
yeah, it depends how bad it gets. Like I said, like Stuttgart are breathing right behind them. So realistically, are they gonna sack? And they're in Stuttgart have won 4 on the bounce as well, so it's not like they're just casually strolling along. Dortmund are then 9 points back, so realistically, they're not really going to drop to 4th, but they could drop to 3rd if they keep losing or keep.
It's
having
shocking that
negative
for
results.
Bayern, especially how much they've spent.
Yeah, especially how much they've spent, who they got in their team, and their previous history. Like, they won the league last year without even playing well, just because Dortmund fucked it up massively.
Yeah.
On the last day. That's the reason they didn't
shocking.
win. Like, it's so, yeah, to be faltering. I mean, you have to give it to Leverkusen though. Like, they would be, if Leverkusen aren't having like the best season they've ever had in their entire history, then Bayern Munich would still be top. We have to remember that. So yeah, they're having a little
That's what you expect.
season patch. If anyone plays FM, it's around this sort of time of the year where you lose a couple of games to some dog shit teams and you're wondering what's going on. But
it's because there's been an update. That's why.
Yeah, there's been an
update, and your tactics don't work anymore.
You mean? Updated with Eric Dyer in the team. That's why. But yeah,
yeah. Outside of the Bundesliga, is anything else for the listeners?
Yeah, I was just going to touch on the couple of major leagues that are in there as well. So you're looking at, I mean, there's not many standout games really in La Liga, and to be honest, are Real Madrid running away with it? Girona have lost their last 2. They're starting to falter a little bit now. They're being caught by Barcelona. I think they'll probably end up in a Champions League place, but like
which is amazing.
They're playing Rayo Vallecano this weekend, Girona. So that's probably a game to sort of get. Rayo Vallecano haven't won in their last 5. So Girona realistically can get some points back on the board there and get their momentum back in. Real Madrid are just running away with it at this point, though. They've only lost once this season. So, I mean, to be honest, that's a foregone conclusion. They're playing Sevilla, and Sevilla are having a terrible year. They're in 15th. So they are fighting for their lives down the bottom there, by all means. But Almeria, who are bottom of La Liga, I think we should probably look at their game this weekend. And Almeria are playing Atletico Madrid at home. Almeria arguably could become the worst team in the top 5 leagues history if they fit at this point in time. They played 25 matches, won 0, drawn 8, lost 17, and conceded 52 goals. They only have 8 points. They're playing Atletico Madrid at home. Probably another loss.
That's. I mean,
are they worse? There's talk of them being worse than that Derby team that picked up 11, but I can see like they've got like 14 games left or like 13 games left. Realistically, they're going to get more than 11 points.
So,
but it's not. It's even worse. Like Granada are above them with 14. So like it seems like they're just a load of whipping boys in La Liga this year. But yeah.
So I watched Atletico. I mean, over the weekend, I think they won 4-5-0. But I watched Atletico play Sevilla, and Sevilla went 1-0 up after 15 minutes, and Atletico just did nothing. Just nothing. And I know Simeone is obviously a good manager. He's won leagues, and probably Atletico is one of Atletico's best ever managers. But I, it was just mad. Like it was like the 90th minute, and they were getting in behind Sevilla, who obviously are having a really bad season. And I watched him, and it was just like he was telling his players to calm down. And there was like 5 minutes left, and I was like, "You're getting beat off Sevilla. Like you're meant to be pushing for Champions League and stuff. Like what?" It was just bizarre. But obviously, the weekend after they won 5-0, so the probbies will beat them. But based off of the performance that I've seen them against Sevilla, because they got beat off Bilbao the week before, then they got beat off Sevilla, but then Las Palmas they beat 5, and I just checked. I don't know if I was basing it off what I watched when they played Sevilla, I wouldn't be surprised if they drop points against them.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. It depends if Almeria can score a goal. One of their losses in their last 5 was 3-2 against Real Madrid. So they've obviously got some fight in them. They're not getting, like, turned over. You know what I mean? They've picked up 2 draws in their last 2 games. So
That's what you need.
You have
Man.
to see where they were before that. 22 games, they were on 6 points. So, but not having a win all season is must
Horrendous.
be demoralising in it at this point. I know how demoralising it is after 14, let alone 24 matches. But yeah,
Yeah,
like,
perspective, I suppose.
yeah. And then if we touch on the other 2 big leagues around Europe just quickly as well, while we're at it. Inter Milan running away with Syria. They're away at Lecce this weekend. Lecce are 13th. They've won 1 in the last 5. Inter Milan have won 5 in the last 5. They've only lost 1 this season. They're 9 points ahead of Juventus with a game in hand. I think that's pretty much a foregone conclusion.
Probably.
There's one big game in Serie A this weekend. AC Milan are playing Atalanta. So that's 3rd versus 4th. Atalanta have won their last 5 games. Milan lost their last game. They lost 4-2 to Monza, which is quite the result. Atalanta have been just smashing teams 3-0, 4-1, 3-1, 2-0, 5-0. So that's their last 5 results. They beat Lazio. They've beaten Napoli, who were down in 9th this year after winning the Scudetto last year. But
well, they got rid of the manager, and I think they've just sacking Materazzi, aren't they?
And I think, yeah, the title's a foregone conclusion, I think, with Inter Milan. Juventus are in 2nd. They're 2 points ahead of Milan. AC Milan, that is. And then Atalanta have got that 4th Champions League spot, level with Bologna. So it's a bit open. It's a bit different for the league this year. But with Bologna up there especially, they've won 4 out of their last 5. But it's quite close. We were saying the Championship and League One are quite close as well. I think like there's 8 points separating 11th to 4th in Serie A. So
you want more competitive leagues, though. You don't want to just have like what it was when United were winning the league all the time, and that when Liverpool did in the 80s and whatever. You want it to be a bit more competitive, but and I don't mind seeing teams like Juventus and that struggle. I really enjoy it. You've had it so good for so long, like United at the minute. Like seeing them struggle and like moan about this, that, and the other, and we can't afford this, blah 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 blah. Couldn't give a shit, mate. Although I do find it.
Their struggles are put into perspective when you look at some of the teams lower down in the pyramid that can't even afford to pay any of their players, and then they're like, it's a travesty, it's the end of the world if we don't finish like 3rd. It's just like, mate, at least you have a club.
I know, at least you've got a club that your club has spent like nearly £1 billion on in the past 5 years. Like, grow up.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
Grow up. No sympathy. No sympathy for them.
Yeah, so that's Serie A. I mean, there's not...
I'm not going into the French league, mate. What's the point?
What, with Lyon not being bottom anymore?
I know.
They're 11th.
Turned it around.
Last 3 games. That's a very close league as well. You think, like, with teams on... You put a run of form together, like Rennes have won their last 5. They're now 7th. So, like, that's not too bad. But then Marseille are dropping like a stone. They're only 8 points off the relegation places, and they've lost 2 out of their last 4. So that's interesting.
I mean,
in terms of big games this weekend, there ain't really. I mean, Lyon versus Monaco, maybe. PSG are at home to Rennes. Maybe that's an interesting one. 2 teams in very good form.
well,
Playing each other. Obviously, PSG are probably going to win, but like.
well, as long as Will still keeps losing games at Remy's, and his release clause falls through, that'll be good for us. But realistically, mate, when PSG are nearly 15 points clear of Brest, I'll just say it again.
They're having a hell of a season. Like, give it to them. Like, they are having a hell of a season, Brest.
But I'm not a massive fan of the French league, although there is some good talent in there.
Yeah,
but there we are, mate.
The French team I like, which we're going to touch on in our question at the end.
The
French team I like is Auxerre, and they're not even in the top division. So,
well, with that bombshell, mate, let's go for one last quick short break, and when we come back, you can pose that question to the audience.
Indeed, and yourself. And we're back from our quick short break.
The final break of the pod.
The final break of the pod, yeah, indeed. So, our structure, we're doing a little bit of we're throwing out a question at the end now, so it's sort of like a little debate sort of thing that we can throw on like Twitter or whatever it's called now, and or on social media and all this X, and then we could throw it at your ex, and then and then yeah, we're gonna have a little throw it back out at everyone else as well and see what their thoughts are. And to start with, we've got quite an interesting question. I'm just going to find it because I wrote it down somewhere. And
can't be that interesting then.
It's so interesting, mate.
You know what it is. You know what it is.
And it's that age-old debate now with a lot of these people sort of... I know back in the day it was just no, the answer. But can you have a second club? And now, there's a couple of arguments around this. Can you have a second club? Because I've seen these like people debate saying, oh yeah, everyone has a second club. If you support someone like Leyton Orient, of course you support another London team, which is absolute bollocks, really. No, you support Leyton Orient. Like, they're like, oh, you support a Premier League team, you have to have a Premier League team. No, you don't have to have a Premier League team. Like, that isn't a rule. But then, in my mind, can you follow another club, like check their results, want them to win? Like you were saying, you had some soft spots for some teams. Are you a supporter or is it more of a follower? And where does that draw the line? But can you have a second team? Like I was saying, I like Auxerre from France. I follow their results and things like this. Does that mean I support Auxerre? No, I'm a Sheffield Wednesday fan. But are they a French team that I follow? Is it acceptable to have a team from another country that you follow? Where do you draw a line? Is there even a line? Can you just do whatever the fuck you want? Like at the end of the day, it's just there's no rules, are there?
So the actual question being, can you support 2 teams or more than 1 team? My answer is no. Straight up no. You cannot support 2 teams, and by support, I'm kind of making the definition that if a team that you supported, so let's just say Sheffield Wednesday, Auxerre, wherever to meet, who do you want to win? You can't.
But yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. So that's the team I support. But then, like, the word support is ambiguous.
Well, I'd say support and be a fan.
But then, if that team is in another country, or like you said, you like Toronto, I don't think Toronto and Sunderland are ever going to meet in a competitive environment. So
But I just
realistically, could you support Toronto because you would like to see them win, but they're never going to play Sunderland? But do you get what I mean there? Like,
I do, I do, but I just think I think your allegiance is always going to be dominated by one club,
oh yeah, yeah. No, I get that. I'm just
which would
saying, like,
mean you can't support another club, but you can be an affiliate to another club. So, for example, Feyenoord, I would say, is probably my second team. I
yeah.
think it's
So
referred to.
can you have a second
Have a
team?
second team. No, because I I don't think you can have the same level of support for more than one club. I just don't think you can. I just don't. I think
To
you can
be
like football, but you can't. In my eyes, you can only support one club. You can look for other results. You can maybe have a couple of shirts, but your allegiance and your football club, you can only have one.
Yeah, no, I think I do agree with you in the sense. To be honest, mate, I was just throwing out some questions and throwing out some counter arguments, but like, yeah, like you have to think of the mind fuck trying to support more than one team as well. Like the amount of emotions you go through with one team and just trying to keep up with one team. Imagine trying to support multiple teams. That would be so fucking draining. Like you imagine, like, oh, you have to know the entire squad of like 8 different teams. When they meet each other, you're like an absolute mess because you don't know who you want to win. Like it's, but I get that you can follow. In my mind, you can follow teams from like maybe other countries, or if you even
Mhm.
want to follow a team, or you have a soft spot, like let's call it, for other teams, that's fine. But realistically, you support one club, and that's the club that you care about the most. And I think that's probably the way we're sort of saying it.
Yeah, I think as well. I think I will caveat it as well and think that the teams that I always seem to have a bit of an affiliation to, or I
Yeah,
check the results, are normally not successful as well. So being a Sunderland fan, not like you can call us a glory supporter by any means. And then outside of the teams where I would say that I am, and it mainly comes from football manager saves, let's be honest. But Feyenoord until last season hadn't won the title in God knows how many years, and were in financial disarray until Arne Slot pulled it out the bag and still competing this season. But looks like Eindhoven's going to beat them to it.
I always
And
I always laugh at Onslaught just a sec. It's like it sounds like a northern like penny slots like place.
hi, Arne Slot.
Is that we're going down our slots?
Hi, again, Arne Slot. And then if you look at Palmer,
Yeah,
Palmer until this season, obviously the top and look like they're going to win the league. It's not written, it's not a given yet, then still fall off. But Palmer have been in financial disarray for years and fell out the leagues and fell out of Serie A again and have been in Serie B for a while now. And they're another team. And then I would say outside of that, like Toronto, it's just because of family affiliations and stuff. Toronto, although they have been successful in the MLS, and we talked about them being arguably one of the most successful teams because of the winning the league and the what was it called,
the MLS Cup. Then they got to the
MLS,
final of the Concacaf Champions League. Yeah,
the Concacaf, yeah. So there's an argument that they're the most successful MLS team ever. But in reality, if you look at them now, they've been bottom of the MLS for like the past 2, 3
yeah,
seasons.
for
So
a long
it's
time. Yeah.
so maybe that's why my kind of thing is skewed because there's not a lot of success in the teams I follow.
Mm. Yeah, and I think like with me, mine. I don't know. Like, it's interesting though, isn't it? Like two of those teams that you follow are red. I'm
That's
just
true.
putting this. I'm just putting
Three,
this together because, like, obviously one
three.
of the teams I follow, yeah, three. Um, and then yeah, three of them are. And then out of my, I support Sheffield Wednesday, obviously. But then the two of the teams I actually follow are Hoffenheim in Germany and Auxerre in France, both blue.
Um, yeah.
Is that something like is that a subconscious thing? Do you think? Like
Well,
I
yeah.
don't know. The only other team I followed they don't exist anymore is Chievo Verona who from Italy. They unfortunately, due to financial difficulties, no longer exist. But they're yellow, the same as your Italian team, yellow and blue.
Yeah. Well, Parma's white though, isn't it?
Well,
Really?
their away kit's yellow, but yeah, they got yellow
Yeah.
feet now.
Back there for.
Yeah.
That's true. But I think so. We'll pose that question to the listeners as we come to the end of the episode now, Matt.
Yeah, I think
So tell us what you think.
Yeah.
Comment on Twitter or any social media platform where you can find us, because the handles now, I don't know, Matt, where am I pointing? They're down here. Look at this. Down there. So please feel free to answer. We'll put it out on X and let us know if you feel that you can support and have a second team. But it's a big fat no from me. Big fat no.
Fat no from Gary. And then it's sort of a no in terms of supporting, but following, yes.
You're on the fence. You're a yes. Let's be honest. Be honest with the listeners. It's season 2.
You can't support 2 teams.
All right, you're not on the fence. You agree with us.
No, I'm just saying you can follow and have a soft spot for other teams if you want to.
Not for me. Southern till I die, innit? Have to. Speaking of which, on season 3 on Netflix right now.
We're not endorsing it,
But
we are.
yeah. Here we are though, Matt. End of episode 1 from season 2. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening and putting up with us again. And we'll continue our regular program as we will release an episode every week again.
It will be
finally
released, every week now. So I think our release schedule is going to Fridays. Let us know your thoughts on our new setup as well with
production.
Our
Production. Look at this.
And graphics and all that jazz. But yeah, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.